be that long, so don't worry. We'll get to get beers and pizza after this. But yeah, essentially, I was told last night I need to fill in a spot, so I did. I was struggling to think about what I was going to talk about, at the last minute. I can talk about monitoring, I can talk about time series databases, and we've done a lot of those talks in the past. But we're at a customer this morning in Los Gatos, and we were basically kind of asking them for ideas, like what's interesting at the moment. And actually, just out of interest, as you guys, hopefully we're going to some more meetups, are there any hot topics in DevOps right now that you guys want to hear at a future meetup, or anything that's like on the top of your mind right now?
I want to hear about the time series databases.
Okay, time series databases. So I do have a talk that we did at Influx Days in February. One of our engineers did on why not to build a time series database. We did. Yeah, this morning I was kind of telling the customer about, I tried Azure last weekend and it wasn't that shit. So I was like, okay, so this is a couple of hours of slides, and I'm going to share my kind of story as to why I thought Azure was going to be shit. Yeah, it was actually shit a few years ago, and actually why it isn't so shit anymore. So, just a bit of background on us. So our backstory is we are a monitoring tool. We're Kubernetes native, and we do all the stuff monitoring, tools you expect, monitoring, dashboards, alerts, that kind of stuff. The unique thing we have is we can actually write checks in the browser. You can deploy them out to your nodes and pods and stuff like that, and it works straight away. So you can collect metrics really easily. But we originally built it on OVH, which is a colo in France. And then when we kind of moved to Kubernetes ourselves and stuff like that, we moved everything into Amazon AWS. And so we've never used Azure in our lives. But interestingly, when we started the company, this is back in 2014, February, we essentially were put onto Microsoft Ventures Accelerator back in London. So obviously as part of that, they tried to push us onto Azure. And I remember back then, we tried Azure for like 10 minutes. It was shit. And then basically we never used it again. I think they gave us 100K credit or something, we never touched it. So it was a complete waste. So we kind of tried it back then, wasn't very good. Fast forward a couple of years, I actually went to the Build conference in 2016. I got invited there through the Azure team. And basically, it was a really good conference, got to try my first HoloLens and stuff. But one of the things I also got invited to was a round table with the Azure team, with the CTO and all the platform team, to basically give feedback on Azure, which I'd never really used, so I couldn't really give much. But there was a lot of partners in there and stuff like that. And just before the meeting, they had at the conference like a kind of card with like some credentials. You could log in and actually try Azure like for free just at the conference. So I actually went on, tried it. I waited 15 minutes for a Linux VM to spin up. And I was like, fuck this shit, I'm never going to touch it again. So I went into that meeting and I was just like, not that great. But I kept my mouth shut and everyone else was giving like their nice, we think Azure could do better. These were Microsoft partners and stuff like that. And then I just said to them, look, I've used AWS, I've used yours. It took me 15 minutes to spin up a VM. I couldn't even understand how to add a user to my account, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And it was like a one of those therapy groups where all of a sudden all the partners suddenly opened up. And within like 5 minutes, everyone was bitching about Azure and the UI and blah, 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 and this kind of crap. And so, it was pretty shit back in 2016 as well. And what I learned in that meeting was because Microsoft makes so much money from their partners, the reason they're number 2 cloud after AWS is because I think for every dollar Microsoft makes, their partners make $9 or something. So essentially, every customer in Azure, I guarantee you, has been pushed on there by their partners, not because they signed up by themselves. So, because if you were signing up by yourself, you're going to use AWS. It's much simpler to get started on. So anyway, this was 2016. So then last year, our investors, Battery Ventures, they basically got us connected with Microsoft again, and they offered us 120K Azure credits. We're like, well, fuck it, we'll take it. But then again, asking my team to kind of use it, no one wanted to touch it. No one, because Microsoft, I think, have a perception issue in the DevOps kind of space, that everyone kind of perceives them as they're not DevOps friendly. Everything that's really in the DevOps space has been designed for Linux anyway. They didn't really have command line tools until a few years ago. They didn't really have a lot of the stuff that you'd expect that people are used to on the Linux thing. So my team were very kind of anti, like, no, we're not going to use that, we're not going to touch it, even though it was like free credits. So that was kind of last summer, and it was kind of just sitting there doing nothing. And then last weekend I had to spin up a Kubernetes cluster, And I was just thinking to myself, like, look, we're burning money on AWS. I don't know about you guys, but our AWS bill was just going up every month. I'm the CEO, so I get to see the bill going up every month and and use it. And obviously, it's a great service. All of our stuff runs in it. We've got customers using it. We love the reliability and stuff like that. But the cost is just going. So I was like, for our demo and test environments, I don't want to waste money, real money on kind of that kind of stuff. So let me just try Azure. I need to spin up a Kubernetes cluster. Let me see how it is. So this is actually on Sunday. And pretty much after about half an hour, I was like, it's not quite as shit as I thought it was, it used to be kind of thing. And so I'm not going to say that, my roundtable with the CTO and stuff had the impact, but it did seem that they have listened to people like me and have kind of done some improvements over the last couple of years. So actually, it really isn't that bad now that I've got a kind of handle of it. The one thing I just want to say is I literally have 4 days of experience in Azure, so I'm not going to give you an in-depth, thing on it. All I'm going to say is it's not as shit, and I'm going to tell you some of the reasons and some of the things that I liked and some of the things I was actually pleasantly surprised about. So really, first steps, kind of getting onto Azure. This was literally on Sunday. So interesting fact, that's my daughter, her first ever steps. So that's why I put that picture there. But basically, when I took my first steps into Azure on Sunday, yes, the UI is still pretty shit, but it's not as shit as it was like 2 years ago. For some reason, they've got this very Windows Metro-y kind of thing. You have to pin stuff to the dashboard. They've got a million tabs down the side where I don't use any of these things. Literally, the only thing I use is that one, and I think I clicked on that one a couple of times. Never used that one. Basically, there's a lot of stuff in it. It's not as simple as like you log into AWS console and your kind of services are clearly laid out and you can quickly switch between them and the UI. I find it a lot more intuitive in the AWS kind of world. The other thing that I didn't like and kind of was a gotcha as well was it was basically managing users is still a bit shit. By the way, I put a bit shit because my American colleagues keep saying it. In the UK we say it's a bit shit. That's kind of like our normal kind of phrase, and our US colleagues seem to think that's really funny. So anyway, but managing the users, I first of all you have to create them in this Active Directory service. So it's obviously been designed for enterprise. It hasn't been really designed for SMEs and small customers. But when you create a user, it doesn't send them a notification email, so you have to go and still manually send them their temporary password they can log in. And then when they log in, they try it, it doesn't work because you also have to go and remember to add them to a subscription so they can access all the resources in their account. So, there's like 3 steps just to invite a user, whereas in AWS I just invite via email and it's pretty straightforward kind of thing. So I thought the user management wasn't, that great. And really the main kind of thing that I've noticed is, I don't know if AWS, AWS seems to be pretty snappy generally for spinning up things, like a Linux VM spins up in like a minute. If I make a change to security group, it's pretty much instant kind of thing. In terms of kind of making changes to Azure, I still find it pretty slow. Like, so this is actually, this is a screenshot I took. I basically just wanted to add another endpoint or a port, pretty much like a security group in AWS, to a Linux server that I had running in Azure. And I waited 60 seconds for that change to be applied, kind of thing. And that's just to add a port onto a VM. That's not great kind of thing. And I found a lot of things that I was trying over the last few days had that kind of response time. So that's something they can definitely improve on. However, now the good stuff. They do have a command line tool. So brew install it, it's the Azure command line client 2.0. Literally in a couple of commands, you log in, it brings up a web page, you just type in your credentials, it gives you, creates everything for you. And then in one command line, you can spin up a Linux server. And actually, when you kind of take it into their new kind of AKS kind of, managed Kubernetes service, this is actually just, what you type to basically spin up a Kubernetes cluster. You'll see, like, in literally a few seconds, and this is basically from their website, but I did this exact same thing on Sunday, and I had a full-blown 5-node Kubernetes cluster running in about 10 minutes without anything, and I've never set up a Kubernetes cluster in my life. So I was pretty impressed with that. So it seemed through the command line tool on Azure, you can spin up things really quickly. Everything in the UI seems to be kind of a template kind of package, which you can also deploy through the command line file. And although they're not the first tool in the world or cloud in the world to have a command line tool, I found it really, really kind of once you kind of got the account set up, you got your user set up, once you get to the command line tool, you could script everything. So I'm now scripting all our demo environments. I've already set up 2 demo environments in the last 4 days, just using the command line tool, and they all kind of automate and spin. So I think my summary after like a few days of using it is, you know, it used to be very shit. It's not as shit as it used to be, and it seems to be getting a lot better. And now that I've actually had a few kind of days experience on it, we're going to be putting more of our test environments and demo environments onto it, you know, because we've got the free credits. And I can honestly see us using this a lot more. So I was actually very pleasantly surprised with it. So really, that is my talk today, very short. I don't really know what questions to answer because I'm not an expert, but if you do have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Oh, there's one in the back.
Your QA environment that you're deploying, are you able to, how you're connected those environments with your AWS environments, are you able to do that already?
Oh, no, I haven't even tried that. So it's literally just completely separate demo test environments, that kind of stuff. None of the rest of the only person in the company using it, well, there's only 2 people in the company using it right now. The other team still have this perception of Microsoft and Azure and won't touch it. But I think after I showed them this talk, and I've told them on Slack as well a few times, I think maybe a few of them may try it out. Like, I think that's the main thing that I kind of took away. Because I mean, out of interest, I mean, I had this perception of Azure, you know, having used it in the past and stuff like that. I mean, out of the room here, would any of you guys have thought that Azure was good before I kind of said it was? A couple of people. So yeah, that's the thing. Microsoft has a big perception issue. You know, like they're not really perceived as kind of a leader in the DevOps space. They're not really, you know, they seem to be behind the curve on kind of tooling and stuff like that. But I think they have really made a huge investment, and that's what I was pleasantly surprised with this week.
On telepresence, does it handle SSL certificates?
I have no idea. I just installed it 10 minutes ago. Okay. Cool. So that's really my short talk, but that kind of brings us in time for the end. We usually finish around this time anyway. So let me just switch back. So I just want to say a few final things. First of all, thank you very much to Upgrade.com for hosting us. I'm sure you'll appreciate the space. It's beautiful. Especially to Carolyn at the back. I don't know, I'm sure there are other people involved, but she did an awesome job organising everything. And thank you guys for all coming. Obviously our next meetup's going to be in April at Lingplum, and we're always looking for more speakers. You know, this one was a little bit tough, so any of you guys want to speak to myself or Frank, who's standing over there, and we will put you on the list. And there's one already at the back. Okay, awesome. Thanks for coming. And by the way, if you guys want to go for beers afterwards, we will do that. Unless you guys want to go to bed at 10 p.m. like everyone else. Okay, bye.